Hello, and welcome to the Ganru's a Beth Show. I'm Golda.
I'm Wanru.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this is a podcast that's just like hanging out with your three best girlfriends.
It's like finding that extra change in the vending machine.
Or finding an extra $20 bill in that old jacket pocket.
Or having a piggy bank that constantly refills itself.
Wouldn't that be nice? In today's episode, Liz will be sharing with us ridiculously easy financial tips.
Totally easy, doable financial tips.
And you'll find out why Golda doesn't like being around any sweaty people.
Oh, yeah? And you'll also find out why Liz and Wanru, they sweat at different temperatures.
It's true.
Like drastically different temperatures.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. Freak.
So,
let's get started.
It's 2019, and one of the first things on your mind might be, how can I ball this year, right? How can I be rolling in the dough?
I'm sorry?
Golda is literally fanning
I'm
herself
fanning myself.
with dollar bills and 20s right now.
Just had it lying around.
So if you're not as fortunate as Golda to just have wads of cash lying around, you might need some tips on finances. And who can break things down and make it ridiculously easy better than Elizabeth Pan, our Life Concierge?
Hello, everyone.
Welcome, Liz.
Thank you. It's so nice to be back.
Love that you could come back.
Oh.
This is something that I think is on the forefront of everybody's minds right now, right?
Absolutely.
Money.
Yep.
Money. Making
And
your money
a lot
your
of people
honey.
in the new year say, a lot of people's, what are everyone's New Year's resolutions, right?
Yeah.
Lose weight.
Yeah.
Lose weight, how to make more money.
Yep.
Yes.
And so we can't help with the losing weight part, but we're here for the money.
Okay.
part. Yeah. And I want to thank you, first of all, for inviting me
Aw.
and making me a financial advisor. But I want to emphasize I'm not a financial advisor, but I know how to do these finances for dummies. Like, it's really accessible, these tips that anyone can do.
Yes.
It's not anything for anyone to be intimidated by or think that this is beyond them. Because I know a lot of times with financial stuff, I know I was one of those people. I was like,
yeah.
I cannot deal. I'm an artist. I cannot deal with finances.
Yeah.
That's just beyond me. My eyes will start glazing over when people start talking about it. But I want to say that these tips are very accessible for anyone.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think me for one, I feel like there's so much information out there and probably a lot of very helpful information out there. It's just overwhelming, like where to get started first. And then it sounds so complicated.
Yeah.
So you're going to break this down for us.
Yeah,
right?
these are very basic, simple tips, but I think they will make a huge difference in your financial life.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
So-
And then when did you transition from the irresponsible, I cannot think about finances or it's too much, to I think I'm getting a grasp on it?
So so my mom actually is very financially literate.
Okay.
And when I was a young actress, she'd be like, you should start investing in stocks. You should look into mutual funds. And I'd be like, I would look at these graphs and she'll try to explain it to me and my eyes would glaze over it. And I'd be like, Mom, you don't understand. I'm an artist. I can't deal with this stuff. And it was the worst decision, right? Because it's totally accessible.
Yeah.
But then, as a struggling actor, when you're starting out and stuff, I was broke. I was poorer than a church mouse.
Oh.
And at some point, I'm like, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to worry about where rent's coming from ananymore. I don't want to be reliant on someone giving me a job as an actor in order to pay my bills. I don't want to think about just little things, go in the store and say can I even afford buying this?
Yeah.
It was just a miserable way to live. And so that was when I was like, you know what? I am going to start going to seminars, going to conferences, taking classes to just get financially literate and have a different way of living my life. And it's worked. It's been really good. I mean, I'm not a multimillionaire, but at least I'm comfortable. And that's all I really want. It's just something to be comfortable at financially.
Yeah. She's a mouse at like a Neiman Marcus now.
Yeah.
Not a church mouse.
Not a church
but
mouse,
like a
where they have no money in churches, apparently.
Neiman Marcus is more like Macy's, maybe.
Okay, all right, that's great. You know what? Nordstrom Rack, I'd be really
Yes,
happy to be a
yay.
mouse there. Okay.
You know what really struck me, though, Liz, in what you just said is that you're self-taught. And
Yes.
it sounds like your first step was just to get the information,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then from there, you navigated and created a path for yourself.
And that was one of my tips, but I'll just start out
Okay.
right now. Is
Yeah.
get educated,
Okay.
right? Invest in going to seminars, and a lot of them are just free. A lot of these tips I've got were from like just free seminars that I went to. Of course, these seminars, once you go, they give you some really good tips up front, but then you got to pay for their advanced course. Just don't pay for the advanced course.
Yeah.
You know, they're always like thousands of dollars, but like the tips that you get at the free seminar has taken me so far.
Okay.
And there are so many resources for you out there if you just look for it. You know,
So your top recommendations to start educating yourself would be free seminars. What else is there?
Where can you find these free seminars? Like, is there one place that you can, like,
Well,
Seminars or Us? Or
as an actor, I know the Actors Fund.
Okay.
They have a lot of free seminars that are for
Yeah.
actors, but I'm sure in whatever profession you're in, they have that.
Okay.
Just looking online, and they'll have it like one that I got, a system that I will tell you about later. It was something called the Millionaire's Mind. It was a 3-day free seminar. Obviously, it was there for them to sell further advanced courses. But in the 3 days, I actually learned a lot of stuff that actually changed my idea about money. So just go into these things that are accessible to anyone if you just look and just be smart about it. Don't be one of those people that go to these seminars and then drop $10,000 in future classes. Just get what you need from them and move on. The first tip I wanted to talk about was something that I learned from Miyata. I forget her last name, but she's an actress, and she has made it her life's work to be a financial consultant or she wants to make actors and artists financially literate. So I went to a free class, and I think it was advertised on the Actors Fund. And I sat there going like, this stuff is good.
Really?
It's very interesting. The first tip that she gave, and I will always remember this, is you know, people always ask, well, you know, I'm in debt. How can I save when I'm in debt? I can't. I have to put all my money towards my debt. And she said, don't do that. Like most people, they think I got to pay down my debt first, and then I can start saving.
Right.
And she says that will guarantee that you will always be in debt, which is so interesting, right? Because you put all your money towards paying off your debt, right? And then you have nothing in savings because you've put all your money in debt.
Right.
And then, you know, let's say your credit cards are all paid off, but then, you know, your tires, you know, pop, or your engine needs to be, you know, like there's a $3,000, $1,000 fix that you need on your, that's totally unexpected.
Yeah.
You're back in debt again because you have no savings.
But I'm going to push back a little bit here, okay? Just using my basic arithmetic. So let's say you're carrying a large credit card balance. Let's say it's $10,000.
Yeah.
And usually on a credit card balance, the interest rate is quite high.
Yeah.
So, you know, you might be paying $100 a month just on interest. So it would behoove you, it would be in your best interest to pay down your debt as fast as you can, because unfortunately you are being penalized every single month.
So her thing is do both at the same time.
Okay.
So put money in savings and put money towards your debt. Don't put it all in debt because you will always be in debt. That once it will take longer, but you know, once it gets paid down, if life throws you a curveball, you have money in savings so that you don't need to put stuff back on your credit card again.
Right.
And when you do that, also always pay down the credit card that has the highest interest rate first. So, you know, even if, you know, you have $10,000 on one that's the interest rate's like 8%, and you have $1,200 on one that's earning 22%, even though you have a higher rate on the lower interest rate credit card, pay off your highest one first and work backwards from there.
And you said earning, but you actually meant the interest they charge you.
They're charging you. Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
So pay off your highest interest rate credit card first, no matter what the balance is.
Yeah.
Pay that off first and then go backwards from there.
And Liz, is it true too that when you're looking at that one credit card or that one credit card with the highest interest rate, that you should always pay a little bit more than whatever the monthly is?
Try and pay down some of that, the principal stuff. Don't just pay the interest.
Yeah.
But, you know, just do what you can to just have savings and also pay down your debt. Because that's the only way to get yourself out of debt is if you have money on the side to pay down any unexpected expenses. Because that's what debt is, right? People put stuff on their credit card because life happens to them and they have
Yeah.
no funds to pay for it on the side.
Interestingly enough, one of the best finance tips I ever got was from a customer service rep from Citibank.
Oh.
Because I was trying to negotiate when I was in college, and they're giving away credit cards when you're in college.
yeah.
Oh, totally.
Oh yeah, I was one of those suckers, and I got one of the credit cards, and I was trying to negotiate the rate down, and the really very kind customer service rep said to me, if you pay a little bit more every month, that chips away at your debt. So if your monthly is $120, then pay $150. Find that extra, $30 or whatever, right? And the other thing that he said was, if you're paying by check, make sure you write in the notes section that this is towards the principal of your debt. Because sometimes what credit card companies do is, if you, for example, do have $120 a minimum a month and you're paying $150, they'll take that $30 extra and pay it towards the next month's interest.
Interesting.
And they might not, pay that towards the principal. So if you specify this $30 extra or whatever amount it is towards the interest or towards the principal, not the interest, that might make a difference too. I did not know that.
I didn't know that either.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you've got like a $10,000 debt and you're paying the extra couple of bucks per month, thinking that you're chipping away your principal, it might not actually be chipping away. You might just be putting that money towards the interest of the following month.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because I'm really going to get into the, just simplifying it type of zone here. The principal is what you owe to the borrower, right? And then the interest is what they charge you on top for lending you that money.
Yes.
And ideally, you do pay off your credit card in full every
month,
right?
yeah.
You don't want to get into that thing where you're like, I'm paying the interest, I'm paying the minimum amount. That's all I need to do. No, you want to, don't get into that cycle where you could only afford the interest on your credit card. Just try and pay off your credit cards in full every month if you can.
I have heard even if you only charge $100 and you pay the minimum, it'll take you like 2 years to pay off that $100.
Yeah, don't get into that cycle.
Wow.
Yeah, it's some crazy statistic. And actually a lot of credit card companies are trying to make it clear because they actually want to work with you, right? So they have actually listed, if you make the minimum payment, it will take you this many months.
Oh, really? That's nice of them.
That is nice of them. So don't be afraid to approach your bank and your credit card company for assistance in these ways. They're actually very helpful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least you got a good
I got a good
one.
rep at Citibank. So Liz, your first tip was to educate yourself, go to seminars. Any other ways that folks can educate themselves or do their research that you'd recommend?
Something that I was a book that was really useful to me was a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I've heard you mention that to
my
me.
life.
Yeah.
That book has changed my life.
How so?
And when I bought that book, and I think I've told you guys this story, when people recommended that book to me when I was poorer than a church mouse, I couldn't afford the $11 to buy that book. That was how poor I was.
Wow.
I went to the library and got it, but that book did change my life. And he is big about getting educated on it because you don't know what you don't know until you know it. Right. So that was good. That was,
Instrumental.
that was a book that changed my life, which I would talk about later as well.
By the way, they always have 10 to 20 copies of that book at the library because I go to the library. I've got my copy from the library. They have them updated since whenever it was published. They have one for every year, so it's readily available at the library.
Right.
I have a copy too. It's used as a paperweight for all my bills. Obviously, haven't gotten around to it yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that was my first. It was get educated. But second one is save and pay off your debt at the same time.
it.
Do not just pay off your debt
Okay.
because you will be in debt quicker than you know it if you just do that. If you have no savings at all to draw from when the life throws you a curveball.
What's the
Okay.
optimal amount to save per month?
So this is a system of saving that I learned from another free seminar called The Millionaire's Mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. And I implemented, and it's amazing how quickly this helps you save. So it's called the JARS system.
Okay.
So JARS, like a jar, like where all your money is in right now.
Golda just held out a huge ball pickling jar.
Yeah. Yep.
with a bunch of just like it's like the old piggy bank idea, right?
Yeah.
And the idea is to have jars, and you just every time you get a paycheck, just throw money into the jars, right? So you have a jar for necessities. Exactly. There you go.
Just put a wad of bills.
Where did that big wad of bills come from?
Oh, you
Golda?
know. I'm an entrepreneur.
No, literally, where did you pull that out of? Was that your boosty
My
brother?
my
Her
heart
bosom.
came from my heart area.
Okay, so ideally you would have multiple jars.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
would have one jar for your necessities.
Okay.
One jar for your long-term savings.
Okay.
One jar in long-term savings, meaning, for rainy days.
Okay.
And they do say you ideally want 6 months of your living expenses worth in your long-term savings.
Okay.
One jar for play, for fun,
Okay.
for fun, stuff. One jar for education.
Oh,
And
I like that.
one jar for financial freedom. So stuff for your investment.
Okay.
And one jar for charity. And how those break down
Oh.
is 55% towards your necessities. That's rent, that's food, that's clothing, that's, insurance, necessities. 10% for long-term savings. So for those rainy days, ideally you would want 6 months minimum of your living expenses. So if you lose your job, you have 6 months that you don't have to worry about it. Play. So that's just, fun money just to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Then that's 10%. 10% in long term, 10% in play, 10% in education. So you continue
that.
your education, 10% in financial freedom. And that is money that you are going to invest so that you don't ever have to worry about this in the future. Like that you will never have to rely on a job, on somebody else to support you. You have, and that's, money that you're going to put towards investments in stocks, in bonds, in real estate. And then 5% for charity because you always want to give back.
Awesome. I love that breakdown.
Yeah,
And even if it's $1 every paycheck that you can
Yeah.
afford to put in that, it will make a difference. And I have a great story. So I actually kind of like flipped mine around. So for the play money, I actually made that into my vacation money. So my goal, even when I was poorer than a church mouse, was to go on an international vacation every single year. And I would just throw money into this vacation fund. And I always had enough money to go somewhere. And when I was on vacation, I didn't have to worry about it. I'm like, I'm going to go out and eat a nice dinner. I don't care because I had that money.
fantastic.
So that I made that into a vacation fund, and then and I think I made an extra jar or something for my LASIK eye surgery fund. And
So you can
back
get
then-
specific about
Yeah,
the jars.
that was my thing. So I needed $4,000 to have LASIK eye surgery.
Ooh, that's
And I
pricey.
was like, how am I going to come up with that? And so I just started throwing, anytime I had extra money, I just threw it into my LASIK eye surgery jar. And before I knew it, I had the $4,000, and it is the best money I ever spent. My LASIK eye
Wow.
surgery. And so I'm talking about jars, but the way I did it is I just opened, I think, a bank account, and I had 4 different savings accounts.
Yeah.
And I would just throw money into those accounts whenever I got paid for anything. So it's doesn't have to be literal jars, although it could be with cash, but these days everyone's electronic.
Yeah.
So I use allybank.com, Ally Bank, ALLY Bank. Their savings accounts are free and they have a high interest rate. I think it's almost 2% at this point.
Oh,
interest rate,
fantastic.
which is almost impossible right
Wow.
now. So so you just open 5 accounts and you just transfer money into it every time you get paid.
And
I
a
love
little
that.
tip I've heard for those who want to save online, number 1 is to create separate accounts, which you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And with the separate accounts, to label them in your web browser.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
instead of savings account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
it would be called vacation.
Yep.
Or like
Italy.
Italy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
The more-
LASIK eye
LASIK.
surgery.
LASIK eye surgery. Yeah. The more specific you are about it,
Education.
sledding in Alaska
Yeah.
with dogs.
Yeah.
The more
Yep.
specific you
Whale watching in Long Beach.
I know. I know a woman.
Very bite-sized goals.
I know a woman
Feels
who
good.
is
Feels
all
good when you
about
achieve
getting married.
Oh,
And so
You have
she-
one?
So this
Oh.
woman, and she
Oh.
says she has a wedding fund. So
Wow.
she
Smart.
has a wedding jar, quote unquote, where she throws all her money in there for her future wedding.
Wow.
So she'll have that money when she gets married, but it's also
Yeah.
aspirational, right?
That's
Fantastic,
interesting.
yeah.
Right?
She's throwing that energy out in the universe.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
I'm
yep,
gonna
she
have
has the
one.
money there.
That's gonna be Ballin' Cristal Fund.
Yes. I have a highlights fund.
Making it rain.
I can't afford it yet, obviously. It's all dark, my hair.
A balayage fund because highlights and balayage
Yes.
are an investment. Right, but exactly. The more
Yeah.
specific you get with labeling them. And
It's
just
more fun, too.
it's more fun.
Yeah.
And then just the process of splitting up your money so that it doesn't go into one pool, which then God knows where it goes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of actually divvying it up,
Yeah.
transferring it, and then locking it there. Obviously, you're not
Right.
You're
And
not
once it's
bringing-
there, you're not going to touch it. If it's in your general checking account or something, you're going to touch it, right? You're going to spend it. But if you just throw it away, you'll be surprised that you don't need it. You really don't need that money once you put it away. And, again, if money is tight, even putting $1
Yeah.
at each paycheck in each one of these jars, quote unquote, you will have money at the end of the year.
That's actually one of the tips
Great.
I picked up. I think from who's that blonde lady with the really short extreme hair?
Susie
Susie
Orman.
Orman.
I was going to say Liz is
Susie Orman.
hard.
Like a nicer, much more attractive, less abrasive Susie Ormond. Sorry, Susie Ormond. But I did learn a lot from her.
Yep.
I read her book.
Yep.
It was like a book about money for millennials or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first tips is that if you make savings automated,
Yep.
it will flow easily.
Yeah.
If it becomes an act that you have to go out of your way to do, it actually makes it more difficult. So for example, a lot of people have direct deposit, and then schedule after the direct deposit a transfer to your savings account automatically.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get paid every 2 weeks or every month, and then you schedule the day after a $200 transfer to your savings fund, and it's automatic. You won't ever know the money was there, and
You won't
be-
even feel it.
You won't even feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you have to yourself remember to transfer that money, it becomes painful.
Yep.
So automate the savings, automate the financial wealth.
So I bought my Prius in 2013, and it was a 5-year lease. I'm sorry, a 5-year
Plan, payment.
payment
Oh,
plan, right? It's 5 years. And I just paid it off this September.
Yay.
So I own my 2013 Prius for the
Yay.
first wholly as of September. And the payments were like, $450 a month. And it was automatically taken by Toyota of America every month. And then I was like, now that they're like, now, we've canceled the automatic withdrawal, and I was thinking, man, I have an extra $450 in my and then I remember something my friend Amber said. She said, when I paid off my car, I was so excited about that extra money I was going to have every month. But I'm telling you, it gets absorbed.
Yeah.
I don't know where it goes. Like
Yeah.
she didn't even notice that she had this extra money because it just goes away. So I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just take out $450 and
Keep it
put
up.
it into my financial freedom fund.
Ooh,
Right? So I've been paying it for
smart.
5 years.
Yeah.
Right?
You're
It's
used to
there's
it.
no reason for me to not continue paying for it. Obviously, I made it work for 5 years. So if I
Yeah.
continue doing it and now I have all this money, it's otherwise I'd spend it.
Yeah.
Like my friend Amber said, it got absorbed. I don't know where that money went.
So interestingly enough, companies use automation to drain you of your money. So any subscription, I mean, even
Yeah.
subscriptions I
Yeah.
love, like Netflix. I love my Netflix subscription.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're gonna take it.
They're going to take it.
They're gonna take it monthly.
Yeah.
And they're gonna keep taking it until you tell them to stop.
Yeah.
Correct?
Magazine subscriptions do the same thing.
Everything is
Yeah.
automated in a way to take money out of your account.
Yeah.
So find a way for you to use that same system. I think The Automatic Millionaire, I think that's another book I might have read or something
David
like
Bach, yep.
Yes. And so they say if you automate the savings, it becomes something you don't have to worry about. And pretty soon you'll look in your account and your Prius money has
I
now
love
grown
that.
into financial freedom.
I love that. And especially because you were already so used to paying that off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Like if
I
you
love
owe
that.
someone that money, you're going to find a way to pay it, right?
Yeah.
I had to pay Toyota every month. But now that I don't have to, why don't I make myself the person I have to pay every month?
Yeah.
Right?
Fantastic.
I
I love
obviously
that.
didn't need that money because for 5 years I was able to function without that
Yeah.
money.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
That's a great tip.
Great tip. And I love the breakdown too. So 55% necessities, 10% long-term savings, 10% for play, 10% for education, 10% for financial freedom investments, and 5% for
charity, which I'll
charities.
talk about later.
Great.
Okay,
That's
all right.
my last tip.
Fact checker. We have an extra 5% floating around
We do?
because we have play
1, 2, 3, 4.
and 5% for charity. So we have an extra 5% floating around. What do we do with that money, Liz?
There's no 5%. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, sorry, 55%.
95 plus this is 100.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. I thought it was 50% necessities. It's 55.
So
55% for necessities.
City head collectors. You can try and reach us
I was
on our
look-
Gmail account.
I was looking for a loophole. I was looking for my ice cream fund. I'm like, there's an extra 5%.
You can make your ice cream fund as well.
I have a question about the breakdown. You mentioned 10% on education. What does that mean? Education for yourself?
Yeah, education for yourself. Even if it's like, I want to get life coaching.
Ooh,
Right? Something like that. You could do,
Yeah.
I used to use my 10% account to for acting classes. Just something so I
I
keep
love
growing as a
that.
human being. It doesn't have to be education towards financial stuff.
Okay.
Just something that towards your therapy. I don't know, whatever it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
to keep growing as a human being and
Okay.
learning and stuff.
All right, Ariel Silk's funds it is.
Oh, man. How to propagate succulents it is. Even though I already got to do it.
Imagine how much better you're going to be at propagating.
Man.
Yeah, 10% of your income towards that
Shoot.
subject.
Yeah, the sky's the limit. All right, Liz. So
All
what's
right.
tip number?
Maybe around 3 or 4 right
Yeah.
now. So then, okay, so I mentioned that financial freedom fund, right?
Yes.
And everyone's like, okay, so now I've got all this money in there. What do I do with it?
Yeah.
And I think the most stressful thing for everybody is how to invest in the stock market, right? Everyone
Yeah.
knows you got to do it, but it is so stressful because you look at these graphs, you look at all these colors, and you're just like, what? I don't. And how many people really do know that?
Yeah.
So I used to go to a lot of seminars, and I used to go and people teaching you how to do the how to play the market and how to watch the numbers and when to invest and when to pull out and all that and stuff. And I was like, yeah, this all makes sense. And I try to do it, but honestly, I am not that person. I am not interested in day trading. I'm not
Yeah.
interested in constantly watching the market. I just want to put money somewhere and just let it go, right?
Yeah.
But they made it look like that was so lame.
Yeah.
Well, if you're really going to beat the market, you really got to actively manage it. And it's sexier that way,
Yeah.
right? To be
Gordon
actively.
Gekko,
Yeah,
Wall Street.
right? It's like
Yeah.
the Wall Street mentality,
Yeah.
right? That's sexier, that's smarter. You're gonna make more money that way. But studies have shown that
Okay.
it does not. If you just put it in a boring old index fund, and an index fund is a mutual fund that basically follows the stock market, right? Like if the stock market as a whole goes up, you'll make money, right? And so anyways, I used to think, people taught you just investing in an index fund is so pedestrian, right? Well, I knew a good friend of mine is a financial portfolio manager. And he taught me a couple of years ago that Warren Buffett, billionaire Warren Buffett, probably the most intelligent stock market investor there is out there, has put in his will that the money that he leaves behind, he has given his trustees this instruction: put it in 2 mutual funds. That's it.
Which
2 mutual funds. 90% of your whatever your money you have to invest in your stock market, 90% of it in the S&P 500 index fund, and 10% of it in in a bond fund, in a short-term bond fund. That is it. And if you put that in there, Warren Buffett says you will most likely outdo all those fancy managers and everything that are charging you all this money for all their fancy advice. You will still outperform them.
Wow.
And that's from Warren Buffett.
Wow.
And that is so easy.
That's easy.
It's so easy. 90% in an S&P 500 index fund. S&P is the Standard & Poor 500. That's basically just a basic fund that follows the general market, and 10% in a bond fund just to be safe. That
Okay.
is it.
Wow.
So for somebody, let's say, for example, I've started to save money in my financial freedom fund and I have it in a checking account or a savings account. How can I invest that money in a mutual fund like you recommended or a bond?
So I'm so glad you asked me that, Wanru.
Dummy, tell me.
Because this is
I'm
all
going to catch
stuff-
up soon.
This is all stuff I have learned literally in the last 2 years, and only because I was talking to financial people, right? So this friend of mine said, put it in Vanguard.
Yeah.
Vanguard's a company that you transfer that money in your checking account to your Vanguard. You go to Vanguard, open an account, it's free. You transfer it in there, and then you could buy the funds within there. And if anybody wants to know the actual ticker tape numbers of the funds that I put it in, they could contact me, and I'd be more than happy to give
Put it in our show
that.
notes too.
Yeah, put it in our show notes. My contact information. I'm more than happy to put that out there
Wow.
because he
That's
told
generous.
me to do that. And
Gotcha.
it works. It totally works. It's so dummy proof. You just put 90% in one, 10% in another, and you just let it sit. Once a year, you could go in and you could do what's called rebalancing. Like, let's say the 90% grew to like 95% of your portfolio. Then you sell a few and then make it back into the 90-10%
Right.
distribution.
Okay.
But that is dummy free. And Vanguard has the least, they have no fees and stuff. So I used to do stuff like go to financial planners. And like, I remember Fidelity was one. I only went to them because Fidelity, I recognize that name. They must be reputable. So I would go and they were like, yeah, we'll take your money, just so you know, like in order to manage your portfolio, we charge like 1.5%. And I'm like, 1.5%? That doesn't sound like a lot. Sure, why not? But you didn't realize that they were charging 1.5% of your whole portfolio. And then every Fidelity mutual fund they put you in, they also charge about 1.5% to be in that fund.
Yeah.
So at this point, they're taking 3%. And, before you even see any profit, you've already lost 3%. And let's say the market is going down, you're losing 3% on top of that. And so that was like when I was like, and my friend was like, take your money out of Fidelity now and put it in Vanguard, because Vanguard is very, it's very low. Like, for example, I was talking about like 1.5% management fees and stuff. The bonds, the stock, the mutual funds that I put in Vanguard, honestly, it's like 0.06% expenses.
Wow.
So you want as
nothing.
low expense as possible.
Yeah.
I hope this is not getting too technical.
No, not at all.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
When we talk about expense, like I always looked at like, oh, well, how much does the bond, like the fund earn and stuff? He's like, don't just look at that. This is my financial friend. He said, you have to look at expenses, how much they are charging you. That makes the biggest difference. So, so all the Vanguard funds are very, very low cost, but they have the same returns as like a fancy one, like at Fidelity or whatever.
What kind of return are we talking?
Depends on the market. If you're talking about
Okay.
returns and stuff, it depends on the market, obviously.
Like a
But we're-
10-year life cycle. What would it be
You'll
around?
have to look at it
Okay,
depends on the
okay,
market and how the market is doing. But if you're talking about expense ratios and stuff, like you want to look for something that like is really low. Like they consider 0.5% to 0.75% low, but at Fidelity, I'm finding 0.06%.
At Vanguard.
At Vanguard,
Yeah,
sorry. At Vanguard, 0.06% mutual funds.
Wow, that's
So
cheap.
that way you're not, the money is not, any gains you're making, it's going into your pocket and not to somebody else's.
Gotcha.
So that's a
Good
big
to know.
tip.
Yeah. You know what? I only have one anecdote, but it confirms what Liz is saying.
What's
Oh.
that?
So, we get 401ks through my company.
Yeah.
And I really don't actively manage it.
You just put it in a...
It's called a target fund. They make it dummy proof now. So they talk about dummy. You just put in the age you want to retire, and they will automatically distribute your money in a way that will help you to reach your goal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know nothing, and I don't want to completely consume myself with managing it all the time. My coworker, on the other hand, we'll call him Ray, loves to look at it every day. And he may trade, buy, sell, rearrange things, reallocate, all these things on a daily, if not weekly basis.
Wow.
So one day we were comparing our 401ks, and he said, what's your rate of return? Because on the homepage of our website, it gives you your personal rate of return so far for this year. And mine, because it was a good year, it was 5.25%. And I said, what's yours? He goes, oh, it's about the same.
Oh, after all that work?
Yeah. So this is one anecdote. But just to give you an example, when the economy is good, we were both making money. But when the economy was bad, we were both our funds were also going down at the same rate. There was no way that we could spare ourselves from the ups and downs of the economy.
Yeah.
But another thing about Warren Buffett is he is about the long-term investment, correct?
Yes. Right. So just leave it in there. It's, just leave it in there 90%, 10%. And I'm happy to give the ticker tape numbers of the ones that I put it in. And do it at Vanguard.
Okay.
Don't go
Good to
to
know.
like Fidelity or all those other fancy places.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
So,
They're a very reputable and very steady mutual fund, Vanguard. Their set of funds. But yeah, I love that. I'm
Great
going to do
tip.
that.
and then
tip,
go
yeah.
in every year, just once a year. That's all you
Yeah.
need to do. And just like, oh, how has it grown and how has it diminished? And just rebalance it so that it goes back to 90%, 10%. Isn't that easy?
And can you
Anyone could
withdraw
do that,
that
right?
money at any point?
Yeah, if you want, unless it's in your
Oh.
retirement account, which you
Right.
can't withdraw until I think you're 55 or something like
Yeah.
that, right? And you don't want to touch that
Yeah.
money because it's your retirement fund.
Right.
If you touch it, I think there's really big tax penalties, right?
Right. Right. Okay.
Okay, great.
I love that. Woo! I got my homework.
Yeah, you're writing this down.
Vanguard. Yeah.
Can I copy your notes afterwards?
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
sure. I'll charge you 0.5%.
0.05%.
Because
Even
you're
better
my
than
buddy.
She's giving me the Vanguard rate for copying her notes. Okay. All right, ready
So,
for the next one.
and then, and I'm touching on all these things now. I said don't use a financial advisor. That was one of my tips, but I've already mentioned it. It's like when you go to financial advisors, they do just take money off the top. And I'll give you a horrible example. When I was, I did work at companies right out of college and stuff. So I had these 401ks that I was rolling over. And then I wasn't working. I was just an actress. And I had a friend of mine said, oh, there's this financial advisor that works, and they don't charge you any money. You should totally talk to this woman. And I was interested already in being good with my financial life. So I talked to her and I said, how do you make your money? How come you're spending all this time with me? And she's like, oh, I make money off of the mutual funds I'm putting the money into that are paying me. And that's how I make my money.
Ooh, and
I was
that kind of like raised a red flag a little bit
but
for you.
I was so ignorant and young and vulnerable. Like I didn't know
sure,
that. I'm
yeah,
like,
for sure.
okay, I guess that makes sense. Whatever, right? So I said, let's say I had like $50,000, right? I'm like, here's $50,000 I have in my retirement accounts from my corporate jobs. And she's like, okay, well, we could put it in here and we could put it in here and blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, okay. And then she's like, oh, and just so you know, in order to do that, it's a 5% charge. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think very much of it, right?
Okay.
And when I moved my money into her company and it was American Funds, which is one of the most expensive funds
Capital
out
Group.
there. Capital Group, yeah.
I used to work there.
There used to be a client of a company that I used to work for, but they are one of the most expensive funds.
Their front
funds
load.
and front load funds
Yeah.
do not ever.
Expensive.
So just right off the top, I lost about $2,000 just
Ouch.
for moving my money.
Yowza.
And that
Yeah.
money went to American Funds and went to this woman. And then they put me in the most expensive funds too. So on top of the 5%, just to move it over, they charged me like, I think it was like 1.5. I don't even know. It's extremely high.
Wow.
American Funds is extremely high.
Yeah.
But it's a favorite of these financial advisors because they pay such high commissions to them. So
That's how they get you.
that's how they get you. And I was so furious because I was poor already.
Yeah.
And for them to just take advantage of you that way, was so, it's
horrible.
yeah. And that's what they do. They make money off of fees and trying to transfer their money. People that are trying to make their lives better for them and their families, transferring it and then just taking all these fees off of their retirement funds.
Wow.
So, I'm sure if your portfolio grows to a point where you do need a financial advisor, obviously get one.
Right.
If it's like you're in the millions and stuff.
Yeah.
But for something small like this, do the Warren Buffett. Like who else what
Yeah.
better advisor is there than Warren
Yeah.
Buffett, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's 90%, 10%, 90% in just a S&P 500 and 10% in a bond fund.
Got it.
After this, I have an old retirement account. It's a 401k for nonprofits.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give it to Liz. Liz, here, just do something with this.
I'm going to charge you 5%.
I knew it.
Invest it all in Costco. That's what I would do.
But you know what? Liz
They're
is
always
worth it.
busy. Anyway.
Liz is worth it. But anyways, I think I need to have her look it over.
don't just go to any like hack, like any fine. And then after that, a few years later, then I brought my money to Fidelity and I paid them 1.5% to manage. And like all that is like nickel and diming me out of my future, right?
Yeah.
Just do it yourself. You're not paying anybody any fees. And it's so easy. And the returns I was getting was going to be better.
You know what I love? I love that what you're saying pretty much is with a little bit of effort,
Yes.
you can really make a big difference in your financial freedom and your financial life. You know, I
Yes.
think the reason why people do go to these advisors and experts is because of this daunting fear
Yes.
of not knowing how to navigate or missing the boat or whatever, and really thinking that by listening to these financial advisors, they're going to be in a better place.
Of course.
So what you're saying is not necessarily.
No,
Not necessarily.
No, because why are these financial people helping you? They're making money off of you,
Got
right?
it.
And if your portfolio is very modest, there's no reason to go to these guys and pay an extra 1%, 2%, 3%, which doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah.
But over your lifetime, that is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
Sure is.
So, that you don't need it. Follow Warren Buffett, 90%, 10%.
Same rate of return.
Easy.
Same
And
rate-
you will get
same
the
rate of
same
return.
rate of return, if not more, because you're not paying all these fees.
Exactly.
Great.
So,
I love that.
yeah, so just rely on yourself. And I agree with you. It's so daunting. And that's why I'm trying to make these tips as accessible as possible. I think anyone can really follow them. You don't need to look at graphs. You don't need to do analysis. You don't need to do Excel spreadsheets or anything to figure this stuff out. It's very easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I love it.
Are you going to touch any more on 401ks or retirement accounts?
No, but why? Do you have a question?
I just want to say one thing, which is the most important financial tip I picked up from my many years of working, is that if your company has an IRA or 401k, it's a retirement fund, and they match it, you have to put money into your retirement account. It's multiple fold. The first is they usually will match a certain percentage. So let's say you put in 3% of your salary, they will match 3%. Okay, just to break it down, that means if you put $1 in there, they're going to give you $1. That is doubling your money in one
Free
go.
money.
That's a 200%, I could do the math, 200% rate of return, which is never, in your wildest dreams, you will never get a 200 rate of return unless someone gave you an Apple stock back in 1975, right? I mean, when would that ever happen, right?
Right.
Yeah. Unless Steve Jobs gave it to you when you were his secretary or something like that, right? So they're literally giving you $1 for every dollar. And even if you are dirt poor, you have to match, meaning if they say we'll match 3% of your salary, you put in 3%.
Yeah, it's pre-tax.
Yeah,
correct.
So you're not even going to feel it as much with that level of percentage.
Yeah.
Right?
If you don't do that, you're basically leaving money on the table. You're like, this is money you want to give me. I don't want it. Bye. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
That's
right?
a fantastic analogy. Let's just picture that. There's a table full of money, and they're
pile of money.
pile of money, like Golda has in her jar, right here.
Mine
this
is
pile.
a jar of mixed coins with paper.
But she says, I'll give you this jar.
Yeah.
But you got to present your own jar.
Yeah.
With this amount of money.
Yeah.
Then you get this one for free.
Yeah. No strings attached. We're just going to give it to you.
Right? And so it would behoove you to fork over that money
Yeah.
so that you can get that matching. And secondly, Golda touched upon this as well. It's pre-tax dollars. So again, this is kind of a more sophisticated concept. For me, it was to grasp, which is that the money you get in your paycheck that you take home has been taxed. And
35, 45%.
Yeah.
So 40% of that money has been taken out by the government. Okay. So what happens is they actually take the money before the government gets to it. And it helps to lower your overall
tax,
salary a little bit. So let's say you make $100,000, make it easy. You make $100,000 a year and you put in $20,000 in your 401k or your personal retirement account. The government will only tax you $80,000 because your income is now $80,000.
Yep.
Right.
So multiple fold. Number one, you're getting matching money from your company. You're reducing your salary. And you're using
Taxable salary. You're reducing the taxes on your
taxable.
salary. Yeah.
exactly. And you will not feel it.
Right.
You will not feel it as much as if you had to invest that money after you got your paycheck.
You know, ladies, you guys are very financially literate.
No, this is pretty much what I know.
I just read this
That's not true.
10 minutes before we started.
You guys know what? You guys are totally sophisticated. No, this is good.
Well,
I
'cause
think that you've rubbed up. That's different. You've rubbed off.
you're rubbing off on me and rubbing off on us.
Not
And it
until
feels-
later.
It feels so good. No, sorry, go ahead. I'm in my own zone.
Oh, sorry. I completely veered off the rails. Okay, so
Liz was saying how you actually know a lot.
Yeah, you guys know.
I
you
know a little
lot.
bit.
Yeah.
I also understand that, let's say you are at a company where you get merit increases, so a certain percentage increase every year because it's like a
This
raise
is
or
a
whatever.
Great tip.
So let's say on average, I think the national average of the United States is about 3% if you're with a company that provides merit increases. So let's say that you were already contributing 3% to your 401k, right? So you're used to your analogy of your Ford Prius. You're already used to
Toyota
seeing
Prius.
that-
That's-
Oh,
you
yeah,
own
Toyota
a
Prius.
Toyota Prius. Golda.
I do own a Prius, and I don't
And
know the
Ford did not
manufacturer.
make it.
Yes,
This
it's a
is not-
Toyota.
This is not the automobile episode. This is the finance episode.
I can only do one thing at a time. So let's say that you get that 3% increase the following year and you had already contributed 3% to your 401k. Take that 3% increase that you earned that year and put it towards your 401k. So now you're contributing 6%.
Or into your financial freedom fund.
Yeah, or your
Too,
financial
yeah.
freedom
You will
fund.
not even
Yeah.
feel it.
Yep.
You honestly will not feel it.
Yeah. And when I think about like what I would normally do with that money,
Starbucks.
for like nothing.
Right?
Yeah, Starbucks,
Yeah.
Spaghetti Factory. I mean, it's like
Starbucks to drink a bunch of
Nothing.
caffeine, carbs, and sugar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every day, people spend that $6, $7 on a grande latte or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're just like
Just down
ingesting
the
sugar.
drain.
And yeah,
Yeah.
down the drain.
And
I love
especially
that.
for you young folks out there. For the older folks, obviously, this is more of an imperative because you're actually going to be facing retirement. But for you young folks, I know a lot of you will be like, I need every penny right now.
Yeah.
I need to pinch every penny.
Yeah.
I'm barely getting by.
Yeah.
To put money in a retirement fund seems so beyond.
Luxurious,
Yeah.
maybe.
or
Is
it
that
just-
right?
it just doesn't seem very important
yeah.
at this point, right?
Yeah.
But number one, it's free money
Yeah.
that you're turning away. But number two, when you walk away from this job, and you may only work at the job a year or two, maybe you work at the job 5 years, this is the thing that you can take with you for the rest of your life. That paycheck is going to be gone.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to,
Yeah.
unless you're like,
Going to that music festival is fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Don't do it all the time, though.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
yeah, unless you're
Return.
like Liz and you're like saving the money that you're supposed to. Most of us are not that disciplined. So when you quit that job, you actually have that and it follows you around for the rest of your life. When I was very young, I didn't know what I was doing when I got to college. And I was just putting money in there, the minimum to meet the matching amount. And now to this day, like as I'm approaching retirement, that account is still there for me.
Yeah.
And it's grown. It's shocking.
Yeah.
it's amazing how much it will grow. If you start investing at 25 as opposed to 45, you'll be a multi-millionaire by the time you graduate. And you're not going to graduate by the time you retire. And you wouldn't
Graduate.
even
Life.
have missed that. Yeah, when you graduate, life, the game of life.
Yeah.
By the way, my nephew and niece played the game of life the other day, and they were telling me about how they got married and had kids and all that stuff. I'm like, what? That's a horrible game. I mean, we live that game every day. Why would
Yeah.
I want to play that as a board game?
bad.
It's like, oh, anyway. When you graduate, when you retire, that money is money that you didn't even notice was gone, and now
Yeah.
you're a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want that?
By
Start
the
when
way,
you're young.
In
Yeah.
the game of life, my little car, I still have one pin in it, and that's me. I'm still waiting for the blue pin to put in the spot next to me. The pins in the back, all empty, full of cobwebs. Hey, but you know what? I got my 3 401k accounts to keep me warm at night.
You know,
Thank you very much.
I can't relate to this game because we were too poor to afford it. We just played the real life game of life.
Like when we were
Why
kids, we
would you-
thought this
why
was so
would you-
fun, but
yeah.
now I'm like, that is a horrible
Yeah.
game.
It's stressful.
That's too realistic.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a little car, right?
Yeah, and
you-
then like you draw your profession and it says you're a teacher. You make $16,000 a year.
Oh,
And, like,
damn.
and then there was a payday, and you got that, and you had to pay all these bills.
Oh.
It's horrible.
no, I think this
What
is
a
good
drag.
practice. This is good practice for kids.
it's a good. It's a drag to me. I'm thinking, but no, I mean as an
it's true.
adult because this is what we'd play every day.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Okay.
So I'm done with the 401k thing.
Yeah.
Super critical.
Yes.
though.
I was going to ask you, Liz, you had mentioned a couple of minutes ago about relationship to money
Yeah.
and
Oh,
how
yeah.
that book, what's that? book,
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Uh-huh.
Yeah, how that changed your viewpoint and your relationship with money. Can you touch upon that a little
such
bit?
a great segue, Golda. We
Yeah,
are on the
great.
same wavelength because my
Awesome.
next tip was, we have been taught to go to school, be a good student, graduate, get a good job, get a house, get married, and die.
Just like the board game life.
Just
Yes.
like the game of life,
We've
right?
been brainwashed.
Right? We have get a job, stay in that job, buy a house, buy a bunch of stuff that's going to lock you into that job and you never can leave that job because you have all these
Right.
expenses and then you die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that was what Rich Dad Poor Dad, that book has completely changed my mindset.
Okay.
Was that paradigm no longer works.
Okay.
Right? Like where you go and you work at a job and you work that job for 40 something years and they have a pension for you for when you graduate, when you retire. That doesn't work anymore. We have to take care of ourselves. And so what Rich Dad Poor Dad taught me, which is written by a guy named Robert Kiyosaki, was we have to take our, we want to take our lives back into our own hands. We're not giving away 40 years of our lives to some company to make somebody else rich.
Right.
We want to make ourselves rich. And the way to do that is to own income producing assets.
Oh.
So
that
owning
mean?
assets like real estate that will bring you income.
Okay.
And you don't have to actually physically go into work, sit down there and give your blood, sweat, and tears to somebody else to make that money. So basically passive income.
Okay.
So that's basically, you invest in something and then the money comes back to you without you having to do anything about it. And real estate is his way of doing it and it's been my way as well. So
Okay.
I followed that book. And just purchasing real estate has really made a huge difference in my financial life too. So I bought, and it didn't take that much. My first duplex that I bought in the South LA area, I literally put down $12,000.
Wow.
And that duplex has produced monthly income with not much effort on my part to get that income. And that home that I bought in 2012 has now doubled its value.
Wow.
So now I have, I own a home that's worth I put $12,000 into this home, but it's worth now almost $800,000.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And every month I'm making thousands of dollars in income on that, right?
Wow.
I wasn't rich when I did it. I only put in $12,000, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, I timed the market right and everything, but these opportunities are there for people, right?
Yeah.
These are returns you will never get working a job for somebody else, right? And this is how you become financially free. And financially free meaning that you don't have to work anymore unless you want to, right? You have money coming in so that if you want to go to Italy for a month and hang out there and eat pasta and drink wine for a month, you're still making money because back home, these assets that you own are churning out money for you. So that's a big, it's a change in your paradigm of thinking of you're not just tied to your job to make and reliant on a paycheck to make money. You put investments that are just throwing out money and you're making your money work for you.
So you mentioned passive income because Robert Kiyosaki's big into passive income.
Yeah.
What are the top passive income revenue streams? So just to define, active income is something where you actually have to put in your own time and labor. So like clocking in, clocking out at a job. Passive income is you don't actually have to be doing anything for the money to continually come in, right?
Right.
Or minimal work. So what are some, besides for investing in real estate, which is, I would say, a very big, it's kind of a larger scale passive income revenue stream. What are some other ones?
Great question, Wanru.
Like bonds, you could invest in bonds. Your returns are going to be a lot lower and stuff, but you don't have to. You just put money in some bonds, and they'll give you, 5% back or something, or 4% back. You could invest in bonds. You can invest in other people's real estate adventures. In that, you don't have to put that much money down towards that. And they take your money, they pool it with a bunch of other investors. These are called syndications. And then they put it in a big, project, and then they'll give out dividends to all the investors. Invest in a business. You see something oh my gosh. I don't know if you guys know a company named LegalZoom. I used to work for them. A friend of mine from college knew the founders, and he gave them a few 100,000, not a few $1,000s when they were like had this idea to open this company, and now the company is huge, and he has made millions off of that investment. So if you invest in businesses and stuff like that, just again, these are things you need to get educated on, and going to meetings and like going to conferences and stuff to learn about other opportunities to get passive income. But that is something that I would say, like, if your goal is to not work for the rest of your life for a company and to just have financial freedom, start owning income producing assets. Real estate, I know it's like a quote unquote bigger investment and stuff, but it is, I read this quote that I just think is so brilliant. In the history of the world, true wealth was always made by land. True wealth has always, when you think about it, right? It was always the kings and the noblemen that owned the land.
That's right.
And the peasants that worked it, right?
That's right.
Like, it's always been made by land. And so if you can get yourself to the point where you actually feel that that's a possibility for you, it really will change your life to get into real estate.
Yes, it's true, because there was a medieval book published called King is Fatherless and Peasant is Fatherless. Translated from the Latin, which I read.
It's always checked out from the book library when I go.
And it's
very
in old
popular.
English.
Yeah.
Just read the Kiyosaki version. It's much more up to date.
Much more modern.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So
I know, and
get
that's
into that
we're
mindset.
getting
Yeah.
more like
No, it's
bigger and
good.
bigger as
It's
we're
good.
talking about this. But
Yeah. I think
It
that
is.
real estate is always something that I think folks are curious about, right? And again, I think what you're helping to break down is that it's not as daunting as you would think it would be, because your investment was $12,000.
No, yeah.
I mean, that's no small sum, but it's a lot more doable than $200,000 or
Absolutely,
$100,000 down
Yep.
payment, right?
Yeah.
So there's various types of plans out there, I
Yeah,
think, right?
and the reason I say always go to these investment seminars, I always thought you had to put 20% down to buy a
Right.
home, right? And I remember going to this conference, and I met this guy who's still a friend now, and he's like, "Well, have you ever heard of an HOA loan?" I'm sorry, a FHA loan.
Yeah.
FHA. I'm like, what is that? It's like a first time home buyers something. It's something. It's a government program. You only need to put 3.5% down. I'm like, what? 3.5%? I never knew that. I never would have known this information had I not gone to a random conference and met this random guy who told me that. And that small tip has changed my financial life.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't need $100,000 to buy a home in LA. I just needed 12.
Amazing.
Love that.
Yeah.
And this information is out there for you.
It's out there for
Right?
you. Yeah. So I guess I hope this is not intimidating to everyone. I'm just saying, like, if I, as an actress, can figure this stuff out, anybody can. You just need to, like, be proactive about it. And listening to this podcast would be one of them.
Yay.
And can I say my final tip?
yeah.
And it has to do with that 5% that you put towards charity.
Yeah.
One of the greatest financial tips is give your money away. Give it
Wow.
away to good causes that you believe in.
Okay.
And I know, like, some of the richest people, they put 5 to 10% of every check that they give it to charity. I mean, there's a reason why Mark Zuckerberg and the Gates and everything all have massive endowments for charities, because they obviously want to do good in the world. But they also know that giving the money away, you will get it back tenfold. Money is energy, just like love is, right?
Wow.
The more you give, the more you're going to get back to you. And when you give money to charities and when you give money to causes that you believe in, you're training your mind to be like, I don't need this money. I'm giving it out into the world. And your mind's going to be like, yeah, this is money that I can afford to be generous with because I have more coming in.
Fantastic.
I have more
Right.
Golda,
coming
fan
in.
yourself with your cash right now, because you're gonna infuse
I'm gonna
yourself.
shake it.
Infuse yourself with the energy. Like, I got so much cash, I can just fan myself with this one.
Right.
And have a
You
few
know
of them.
what? I'm gonna give you $20. I'm gonna give you 40, Liz, because I like you a lot.
She's gonna
See,
need.
it comes back to you.
She's gonna
it
need
coming
it back.
Look at that, it works.
No, but it's true, right? If you could train your mind to know that the money
Yeah.
is coming back to
Yeah.
you don't need to hold on to it like a miser
Interesting.
and have the money suffocate.
Yeah.
Let
True.
it flow. Money is energy.
You know, I love that, Liz, because Wanru and I had talked about in a previous episode about this idea of scarcity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you live in a world where you think everything is so scarce and you're hoarding and you're, keeping it all to yourself, you're just inviting more of that scarcity
Yes.
type of life.
Absolutely, because that's where your mindset is. But if your mindset is in generosity and abundance and giving it away for the good and letting the money flow out like water and stuff, of course it's going to flow right back to you.
I love that.
Of course it will.
I love that.
That's a great tip. That is a great tip.
Yeah.
But I have some hard-hitting questions.
Oh,
Have you
okay.
wrapped up all your
Yes,
tips?
those are the tips
Those
I
are
have for you guys
great.
today.
I love
They
that.
were fantastic.
Very
And-
motivating.
And I'm on the same wavelength as you, but I've observed from my coworkers and friends that there are different mindsets regarding money. So I'm
Okay.
going to hit you with some challenging questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
You both answer, okay?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I know a lot of people that once they get $1, a penny, a quarter in their hot little hands,
Yeah.
they got to spend it.
Yeah. It's like burning a hole in their pocket.
We're like, oh God, I've got the mindset of I've got to use this.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it gets pretty bad where I've seen people borrow money from people and to fund their lifestyle and not actually pay them back. So what advice would you give to somebody like that who's like, I don't really like what I'm doing. I'm spending beyond my means. How do I stop this?
Yeah. Love it.
How do I stop spending beyond your means?
My means, yeah. Because, it's so hard. It's easy to say save and have your jars. And all these systems work if you implement them into your life.
Mm-hmm.
So what about for someone who's like, no, I want to enjoy myself and I don't care where
Life is short.
Yeah.
So this is where it's going to get a little more psychological and stuff. That your spending habit was inherited from somewhere. Your attitude towards money was inherited from somewhere, most likely your parents, right? So look into the messages your parents had taught you about money and what is possible with money and the scarcity or abundance of money and how money should be spent and how money should be saved and stuff. And really question it. So these people who are overspending and because they were like, well, I'm going to live in the now, I don't care, or whatever. Most likely their parents did that as well. And if they could stop and be like, oh my gosh, I'm just perpetuating a pattern unquestioned. I didn't even examine this attitude. I'm just following unconsciously what my parents used to do. And having that self-awareness of like, oh, this is not how the world works. It's just how I was taught. And I can learn a different way. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, but I'm on your wavelength. So, and you're rubbing off of me and rubbing onto me. So, so that makes sense to me. But how about you? Do you have Golda's really good? She usually gets very
What?
very
and I-
direct. What
do
would
you
you say
mean?
to this person?
To the person who is burning the dollar is burning a hole in their pocket?
Yeah.
Or
mean,
they're
like,
just spending it beyond their means.
Like I really want to save money, Golda, but I can't. Like I just want to go out and have fun. I try, but then I find something I want and I buy it and I make stupid choices. Help me.
I'll tell you what. Usually people get excited about buying things that will uplift them or that, are some sort of tie to like something that they've always wanted, like when they were a kid and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I would say is to reframe those objectives. So let's say that ever since you were a kid, you wanted a Volkswagen Jetta. I don't know. Somebody's dream. Was to have a Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah.
So instead of getting that Volkswagen Jetta, maybe you should say, oh, I'm going to use that money to buy stock. Right? And instead have it, I think this is where the jar method would actually be helpful, right? Where you put a picture of whatever it is that you want nearby and then just put that money there because it feels like you're buying it already. Kind of, right? Does that make sense? That's what I would do.
So you would put a picture of a Volkswagen Jetta
Yeah.
on the jar?
I would put a picture of the Volkswagen Jetta in the on my jar, even though I know that the jar is going to go towards the Vanguard fund.
Oh, you mean trick
I'm
yourself.
tricking myself.
Oh.
Reframing is what psychologists call it, but I'm saying tricking yourself. You're going to trick yourself so that you're actually not going to get the Volkswagen Jetta. You're actually saving so that you can take that money and open up a Vanguard index fund account. I think you have to do it. I think a lot of it has to do with reframing your relationship to money.
Yeah.
So if someone feels like, oh my gosh, this dollar is burning a hole in my pocket, well then put it somewhere. So you don't have to think about it anymore. You know what's a good exercise that I found? Because I come from a scarcity mindset, and I've been trying. I think I'm doing pretty good with switching it around. Is if I know, like, oh wow, I've got this, I got a raise. What am I gonna do with this money? Or I have $450. I don't have to pay off my Prius anymore.
My Ford Prius.
Anymore. What am I gonna do with this money?
Yeah.
I think that what I found that has been really helpful is pretend you're gonna buy it. So let's say that your favorite department store is Macy's, right? Just buy a bunch of stuff, put it in the bag. Don't buy it. But the activity of going through the motion of buying it should be enough for you to squelch that urge to buy something.
Interesting.
Don't
I've never
buy
tried
it.
Have you ever tried that yourself?
Oh yeah.
And it works?
I'll show you my Macy's account
Shopping
on my
cart.
phone. There's like 5 items on here. And I put it in the bag, I put it in the bag, and then I put it down, and then I don't buy it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Wow.
So just
That's
ride
interesting.
the wave.
That's interesting.
Ride the wave. Ride the wave of this urge to spend and actually go through the motion of possibly spending it, but then don't go through with it. But at least you've sort of tricked yourself into going through the motions and going through the emotions of what it would feel like. That's my trick.
Wow, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it helps me because I don't really buy a lot of stuff anymore.
I'm going to try that next time.
Try it. Yeah.
Well, the reason why I bring this up is because I feel like money is so emotional.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that triggers a lot of feelings, and it drudges up a lot of issues
Yeah.
for people. But I would say the first step is take a deep breath and say, I am going to open up the book and begin my journey of this exploration with finances. Because I think a lot of people, it's so scary. It's such a big thing combined with a lot of feelings like fear and shame and anxiety. Inadequacy.
Yeah.
There's all these negative feelings associated with money and talking about money, that the first step is to be like, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to take a hard look at my finances, seek help, talk to other people. I would say talking to other people is very, very helpful. And then get a clear picture of what you want your life to be like. Because I feel like money, the real core of it is it gives you choice in life.
Yep.
So what people don't realize is money buys you time. It buys you financial, we're talking about freedom.
Right.
Freedom in choices.
Yep.
And the people who have more money have more choices in their life, which freaking sucks, but it's true. Meaning they can choose where to live. They can choose how to spend their day.
Yeah.
They can choose how they travel, how quickly they travel.
How much time they get to spend with their children. All that
They
stuff
get
is
to choose.
important.
Yeah, they get to choose how healthy they are.
Yeah.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
In this country, you get to choose what kind of food you eat.
Yep.
Your quality of life.
Yep.
So if you're making choices that inhibit the other areas of your life, meaning I have all these nice material things and I drive a great car, but I have stress every day because I'm thinking about making the rent.
Yep.
Right? Is that really freedom?
No.
Right? Is that really the optimal way of living? Because like you have a really nice car and you're comfortable in your car and you're, paying this lease. But when you go to sleep at night, you do feel a little nagging guilt that you didn't pay somebody back or that you may not have enough money for taking that trip that you want to.
And if anything happened in your life,
yes.
like if you lose your job, if someone gets in an accident or something, your entire financial life is going to crumble.
Yeah.
It's a horrible anxiety to live with.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know it's difficult. It's a huge, messy thing. But if you begin attacking a little bit at a time, just breaking it down so that you can kind of get a grasp on each area, it's amazing how you can turn your whole financial situation around.
Yep.
Yeah. And I come from a very working class family. And so we know how to, in a little, like going back to the mouse, save the wheat, get some wheat from here and then protect it. We were very, very moderate and very disciplined in the way we spend money. So we never spent beyond our means. So we weren't very indulgent. But, my family was able to amass wealth in one lifetime, meaning my grandparents were poor, but my father was able to obtain a little bit of wealth, and I have been able to obtain a little bit more wealth. So it's possible. It's possible within a lifetime to do it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that to your point, everything is baby steps.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Everything is baby steps. And I think also what's really useful is if you associate or interact with like-minded individuals.
It's
Yes.
so important.
And you can learn from each other, and all of you have the same hunger to learn.
Absolutely.
Or the same objectives in mind. They're called cluster models, I think, is how I've heard it termed, where like-minded individuals get together and you have no other consequence but to actually improve, because you're surrounding yourself with individuals who are always thinking as well. So I think that, in your, your endeavors to go to conferences and things like that, you're surrounding yourself with information and in your gathering of research.
Every time I go to one of those things, there's a nugget that I've taken out. Either just chatting with someone. Like I went to one, like we were talking earlier before we started recording about Indianapolis, investing in single family homes in Indianapolis. I never even occurred to me, but I went to a conference and someone just put that seed in my mind, and I looked into it. I'm like, this is actually very interesting. Just like every time you go, you talk to somebody, you just be open to talking to people, and they all have some sort of nugget that will make a quantum leap in your own finances.
Yeah. And I think if you're open is a big one. And also I think what I notice in you, Liz, is that you're very curious. And I think that, if the folks out there are naturally curious and you just, are like, I wonder how bond markets work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information out there, a lot of podcasts out there that you can learn those things. And what I loved about what you gave us is that it is doable things you can start today.
Yes, and they'll make a huge difference, and anyone could do them, right? They're not too complicated. It does not require you looking at graphs. It does not require you doing like cross analysis and cost benefit retro formulas or whatever those things are.
I believe
regression formulas. I think that's what they call them. It doesn't require any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. This is all very doable for the average person.
I think it just takes that courage to make the first step.
Yes.
Yeah.
Courage.
Really? I mean, I think that if you're satisfied with how things are for you, then more power to you.
Great.
Yeah. Can you contact us and tell us what you're doing?
Next guest, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, then great, fine. But if you are aspiring to have more financial freedom and to really have more choices in your life,
Yeah. Choices.
I think that's really key. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Liz.
you guys so much. It's always so much fun with you ladies.
I feel richer.
I feel abundant in our friendship.
Aw, that's
It
what I
adds.
meant.
Here is a segment of products we love. Someday this will come true. Dream sponsors.
Our next segment is a segment that we like to call our Dream Sponsors segment, which is sponsors that we actually don't have, but that we wish were our sponsors because we actually believe in these products or services. So usually Wanru and I contribute this portion, but since we have our guest Liz Pan here, Liz, do you have a dream sponsor you would like to share with the good people out there?
Well, when we were talking about the finance stuff, I said that, one of the New Year's resolutions, everybody wants to lose weight.
Yep.
Everybody wants to get their finances in order. But I realized my dream sponsor tackles the first one, losing weight or getting fit.
Okay.
So I have been a faithful subscriber to ClassPass, if you guys have ever heard of that. And I believe in this so much because
Okay.
I love it. So I actually got Wanru on it.
Okay.
So what ClassPass is, it's an app. You download it on your iPhone, and it gives you you purchase a subscription. So you could purchase like a 60-point subscription or a 100-point subscription or a 30-point subscription a month. And the points you could use to take classes all over whatever city you're in.
Oh.
And it's, so you don't, a lot of people are like tied to like one studio. If you like to like sample and try different studios and different types of exercise, types of classes, this is the perfect thing for you. So I think I purchased like the very minimum, like 30 points or something, or 36 points a month. And that gives you maybe 6 classes a month, But I could take Pilates, I could take yoga, I could take high intensity interval training. I could take
Great.
running classes. I could take strength training classes. I could take boxing classes. whatever, almost
That's
every
great.
studio in Los Angeles is on here.
Yeah.
And at whatever time of day, there's always a class that is going on. And you just use your points, you buy a class, and you go. And for me to get like 6 classes a month is about $60 a month. That's $10 a class. If you were to take these classes individually, like some Pilates classes are $35 each. So me as a ClassPass member, I go and I'm taking the same exact class that other people are paying $35 for. I'm only paying $10 for it. And I love it. I love it because I get to try every single type of class there is in Los Angeles. And you could go to different cities and use it. So I remember I was shooting a film in New Orleans and I used my class pass in New Orleans for 2 weeks while I was there. And I went to Las Vegas recently and I took a class in Las Vegas. I took a Pilates class in Las Vegas. So you could just, you're not confined to your local gym or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why folks sort of fall off the wagon when it comes to working out is they're used to the same old treadmill, same old Zumba class.
It's so boring.
Right? It gets
it's
really
so
stale.
mind-numbing. Yes.
Yeah, and then it's not motivating to keep at it.
Right. Right.
This is great. So you mentioned Pilates, yoga.
They have yoga. They have bar classes. Those ballet bar classes. They have boxing classes. High intensity interval training, which I never thought was a big deal until I went to this, and it's just like 45 minutes where they have a coach there, and you go to different stations and just repeat these like exercises, with weights and stuff, and it's fun and it's so quick and easy, and you're done.
Wow.
And you don't have to go to that every single day. You go to a different class. You go to a different studio, a different part of town the next day. If I have like an audition on the west side, I'm like, oh, I'm here in West Hollywood. Let's see what's available. Oh, there's a rowing class that I could go to at 6 o'clock. I could make that. I don't have to go back all the way, back to my hometown or whatever. So I love it. And Ganru, I got on it. So if you do want to get on it, you could give your friends a pass.
Oh,
so they
good
get
idea.
$40 off their first month, and then I get $40 off. So I'm happy to offer that, extend that to any of our listeners out there. But I did extend it to Ganru, and she uses it for her silks class, her silks yoga class.
Yeah, my aerial silks class. That's what I
Nice.
use to take those classes on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But I did see some more that I'm excited to try in
like
2019.
what?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu self-defense.
Wow.
It's offered.
That sounds like a video game upgrade that you can do with 2 skill points.
They have
Up-leveled.
They have meditation classes that you can
Meditation,
take.
yes.
They have the cryogenics, where you go and
Yes.
freeze yourself for
Yes.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's on ClassPass.
What?
Wow. They have facials on ClassPass. That's more points and stuff. But
Acupuncture I've seen on there.
infrared saunas. You could do that on
Yes.
ClassPass.
Ooh.
All of this for $60 a month.
That's amazing. And I think people are so used to the traditional ways of getting those things or even just like Groupon or something, but to actually have a very structured monthly way to incorporate wellness and physical
In
activity.
a fun way. I think
Yeah.
that's what gets me. Like if I had to go to the same studio, every single day, I understand there are people, they like that routine.
Yeah.
So maybe this is not for everybody, but
Yeah.
for me who loves variety, who loves to try different things, and my schedule's so varied anyways, this is the perfect fit. And especially if you're traveling.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he wanted to get on it because he shoots a film, he shoots a television show in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, when I'm in Vancouver, I could get use ClassPass, and I could do it when I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, good.
So it works in Vancouver as well.
I think Canada is probably the most
Okay.
international it'll go.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That could potentially get me moving.
So I have been trying to bribe Golda and Gertie, our producer, to take a hot yoga class.
Ooh.
That's included. Lots of hot yoga classes.
Yeah.
What is hot yoga? Is that when a bunch of hot people do yoga?
Oh man, that's hotties.
Because I totally am.
It's called hotties yoga.
What does that mean? Is that like Bikram?
It is
Bikram yoga?
yoga in a warmed room. So there's varying degrees of warmness. It doesn't have to be hot. It doesn't have to be unbearable. You can kind of, in some places, they let you pick the side of the room that to whatever warmness you want.
Would you guys do a Ganru podcast class, like a real life meetup with your listeners to do a hot yoga class?
Oh my God.
That's a great
To
idea,
kinda
actually.
Kick off 2019.
Do hot yoga with
But hot
Ganru.
yoga?
No.
Okay, let me, before we go down this path, I will say that from my pedestrian understanding of yoga and sweating is when you sweat, you are actually releasing the toxins in your body. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So let's say that bless you. So let's say that I'm just going to throw it out there, Korean food the night before. And then I go to my morning Bikram hot yoga. Will I excrete the Korean food
You're gonna
in
smell
my
like
yoga?
kimchi.
Yeah, will I excrete the kimchi that I ate the night before? Is that what's happening?
What do you think? I've only done it a few times. What do you think, Liz?
You probably will,
Okay.
but I don't think anyone's going to notice.
Oh,
I
really?
don't think
So
you're going to start
it's-
smelling
I
like
gotcha. Okay, so it's not going to be too overwhelmingly.
No, you don't need to be
overpowering.
self-conscious about it.
Okay.
Eat away the night before.
I gotcha. So it's not gonna be obvious then. So it's not like I'm gonna smell KFC off the guy next to me or Panda
Hopefully not.
Express from the lady doing her dog pose in front of me. I'm not gonna like be smelling scents.
Is that what has been keeping you away from hot yoga this
will
whole
say I
time?
have a very low tolerance for nausea. So I think that's my block. So hearing that you're saying that that's not the case is definitely a lot more appealing.
It's more appealing.
Yeah.
And okay, the smells aren't that strong from what I've observed, but you do get super sweaty, and it's perhaps not ideal for a first meeting with somebody.
Oh, like a
Probably
date, you
not.
mean?
Maybe that's not the way you want to meet all your fans, is it?
Be like, hey, you want to hang out at the sweat yoga place or whatever it was called, hot yoga place?
So you
And then we'll get some kombucha afterwards. Oh God, it's so LA.
But yeah, you don't want to be all sweaty and damp, and your makeup's melted down to the bottom of
No.
your face, and talking to people.
You know what's the worst is when your sunscreen melts. Have you ever seen people who's sweating? They've been wearing sunscreen.
It's like they're crying white.
Yes, trails, streaks
No, but it's
of
like
SPF 30.
That would be, I think that was me. That would have been me. In some
I've traveled with you.
lifetime.
First of all, fun fact for the Liz pants, she doesn't sweat.
That's
She's
not
dewy.
true.
Liz really doesn't
She
sweat.
hasn't broken a sweat this whole time.
I have been sweating.
I have had.
I had boob sweat on the last podcast. I noticed it. Now everyone's going to go back to the episode and saw. I was like working so hard and talking. I had boob sweat. That's why I'm wearing such a thick sweater today, so no one can see me sweat.
I have two
know that.
Dr. Scholl's foot pads under my boob right now, collecting the boob sweat. You don't know it. Little trade secret.
No, but I don't think Liz sweats much, except for during the last podcast, apparently. But I know what you mean about the sunscreen sweat, because it looks like the Joker, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's all white.
Yeah.
And then the makeup starts, the sunscreen
Yeah.
starts melting off, and you see trails of flesh toned.
Yeah. It's a little creepy. It's a little creepy after a while. So let me say this, because Liz does not sweat, or at least visibly sweat that we can tell. When you go to a hot yoga place, do the owners of the hot yoga place look at you frustrated?
Oh, yeah.
Not working.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Good
do
question.
the other participants look at you like, oh my gosh, this is not working. This is a scam.
Yeah.
What makes you sweat then? Do you have to like
I
go
sweat.
inside a
You guys
volcano
are
or anything?
crazy. I don't think anyone could walk into, I don't know, how hot do they heat the
Like
Bikram?
85 degrees sometimes.
I think it's higher
Yeah.
than that.
85? That's nothing.
Just laying there, you will sweat.
By the way, so not all the hot yoga is Bikram. Bikram is like a name
What is
brand.
that? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't do this, apparently.
Clearly, right? So hot yoga is just a general term.
Okay.
Bikram is the brand name of a particular type of hot yoga. So a lot of hot yoga is warm yoga.
Oh, okay, so it's not super
Yeah,
hot.
It's not
Okay,
super hot.
gotcha.
Yeah, and they have different temperatures. So they'll have like intro, beginner, warmish yoga, and then they don't call it that. But
Warmish.
then they're gonna have like extreme hot yoga,
Tepid
right?
yoga.
There's something for everyone on class pass is basically what we're saying. Tepid yoga.
Tepid yoga. Well, the other question I have real quick, just, as I'm gearing myself up to take hot yoga.
Yes.
What does one wear to hot yoga? Can I wear my undies
Sure, why not?
with my Dr. Scholl's under my boobs?
Why
and that's
not?
it. Because
Why
my
not?
boobs could probably hold it in place. Have you guys ever done that test?
Were you
put
supposed to
the
put a
pen-
pencil underneath your boob?
And if it stays, that means your boob's too low.
I can
Have you
hold.
ever seen this?
I've heard it. I've heard it.
Are we going down another path
I
here?
can hold a remote control under my boob.
I
All right,
think I
now we're going there.
You can hold a jar of money under your
She
boob.
can hold this jar of pennies. I can hold a water bottle. Give me that water bottle. I know
I
that,
got this one.
dude.
A
I could
full one, a full water
full water
bottle.
bottle. I can hold that under my
Yeah.
my boob for sure. What that says
We've
about
got skills.
It's an interesting test.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, you
Yeah.
can wear whatever you want to hot yoga.
Okay.
A lot
All
of the guys there actually are practically naked.
Yes.
They are doing it because they know they can do it. They're just showing off.
I think so.
That's so funny. Can you take pictures at hot yoga?
I don't.
Why
think
would
so.
you want to, Golda?
Why? So I could put it on Yelp and be like, what a scam. Proof, evidence. No,
Have we sold all of you on ClassPass yet?
Anyway,
just the hot yoga part I'm just fixated on right now. But I can see the benefit for Pilates. Always wanted to try Pilates.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanted to try bar method. I think I have an inner ballerina in my mind.
Absolutely
Perfect. Yeah.
And I hear that ballet is the platform with which all other dances are built upon.
Is that right?
Wow.
Yes.
And you're just
I have no
from
sightings from this. I'm just presenting it as a form of statement. I have no idea.
So,
But I think like Fred Astaire said it or somebody reputable.
but yeah, there's such a variety. You can sample it all and see if it's right for you, right?
And if you guys want to try, we could give you $40 off.
Yeah.
We'll send you a referral code.
It will be in the show notes.
Yes.
All right. We got
Yeah.
lots to put in the show notes.
Yeah, I got
today.
a chock full of goodies. Awesome. Well, thanks, Liz. That's
Thank
a good
you
one.
guys. This is fun. Enjoyable as always.
It's always fun, and we always learn something when Elizabeth Pan is with us.
Oh, she is our concierge for life.
Exactly. I learned so much today, and I'm so glad you're back to talk about this totally different subject of finance. But as you're looking past over what we talked about, what is the thing that will stick in your mind, ladies? What do you think you'll be taking away today? Anybody want to go first, or do you want me to
I
go?
think I'll defer to our guest, Liz.
Well, I thought, Golda's tip was very interesting, where if you just go through the motion of buying something when you feel the urge of buying something, just go through the motion of it, put it in the cart, but don't execute on it. And then that just disperses that urge that you have to do it. That's a great tip.
Yeah.
I might try that.
Save yourself
'Cause, like-
thousands of dollars.
Because, like, if you go back the next day or even a week later, you're like, why did I want that? Like, that was so unnecessary. And if it's still there and you still want it, okay, then maybe that's a sign too that you do need to have it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I like that.
true.
Our producer Gertie mentioned that what she does is she takes the item from the department store. I wasn't going to say and then runs with it. I was going to say she takes the item and just walks around with that item and, gives herself time to kind of go through them. That's another like in-store strategy versus online.
I'm going to try that with that Hello Kitty rice cooker that I really want next time. Just carry it around the store.
Why would you even hesitate on buying that?
Did I make a mistake? Do I need to get that?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm going to try that at REI when I want that tent. I'm just going to
Carry it
or drag it around. And at the end, I have a feeling I'll say, it's too heavy. Forget it. Okay, Wanru, what about you? What is your takeaway?
My takeaway is just to educate yourself.
Yes.
Right? Be open enough to start the journey. The journey of a 10,000 miles starts with one step.
I love it.
That
Is
is
that
also
original?
that is an uncredited quotation as well.
I love that. I
Right?
love
So
that.
you got to take those first steps and don't be afraid. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. What else? What other platitudes can we offer here? Just, you're not alone, right? Just
The grass is always greener.
Make lemons out of lemonade.
Waiting for the other shoe to drop. What other quotes?
Look with your eyes, not your mouth.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh, my eyes are bigger than my stomach. What's going on? What are we talking about?
What happened?
My point is, it's not as bad as you think. Another platitude.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to approach the topic of finance, as scary as it can be.
Yeah, and it's not so highfalutin that it, sounds either. I think in addition to being afraid of it or it seems very daunting, I think another possible perception is, oh, that's like rich people type of talk, right? That's rich people type of thinking. I'm not a rich person. Why should I even go down that road? But actually, there's a lot of advantages to any sort of financial background, I think.
Totally, yes.
I would say that my takeaway is from the early part, I think one of your first tips, Liz, and that was your breakdown.
The jar system.
Yes. I've been doing it all this time and I didn't realize it, but I like that you really broke it down to 55% necessities, 10% long-term savings, 10% play, 10% education, 10% financial freedom investments, and 5% charities. That makes it so much more doable because I think in your mind, you might be like, oh yeah, I'm going to save. But then you don't know.
So vague.
Yeah,
you need exact numbers.
And it's not motivating because you're like, oh, what a drag, I have to save.
Right.
But if you say, I'm going to spend 10% towards education and, oh, there's this class that I want to take, I'm going to save for that class. That makes it, I think people like going on, having objectives, having concrete objectives like that. So I think for me, that was particularly helpful.
Yeah, don't forget that Volkswagen Jetta Fund.
Yes, the Volkswagen Jetta Fund.
Make
Red.
Very specific.
Oh, those are such great takeaways.
Yes, very, very, very good. And again, thank you so much, Liz.
Always a pleasure.
For coming here today and sharing your words of wisdom. We would love to have you back again for another
sure.
Concierge Your Life tip.
Thank
This one
you.
was finance, maybe even continue with finance or some other topic.
Yeah.
Yes,
Think of another one.
Awesome. So this has been another episode of the Ganru Zabeth show. We hope you've enjoyed our episode today. If you liked what you heard or what you saw, we are available on YouTube under the Ganru Show. We're also available on every single podcast provider you can think of, such as Spotify. I always forget this. Spotify and Overcast, Stitcher,
Google Podcasts.
Yeah, everything. And if you ask Alexa or if you ask Siri who we are, I think they recognize us as the Ganru Show. You have to pronounce it like that, the Ganru, and then they'll know who you're talking about and they'll be able to play us for you. If you do like what you hear, tell a friend, subscribe to us. We'd love it. Or comment, remark, rate us. What else? Is that it?
Yeah, and contact us on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And lastly, we would like to thank our sponsors, the Ford Prius. Thank you so much. We get so much good American fuel economy driving from your car.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Nissan Fiesta, for your sponsorship.
Our other sponsor that we love. And as well as...
Yes. Well, you know what? Martha Stewart tires. I love those tires. They look great on the road.
So we have been...
Yeah. So what?
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm just thinking about my tires. They're so pretty.
So, this has been the Ganru Zabeth Show.
I am Golda.
I'm Wanru.
And I'm Elizabeth.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, listening.